Welcome to Career Cafe, a podcast to help you thrive in the professional world. Today's episode is on discovering your digital impact, how your social media presence can jeopardize job opportunities. Joining us today, we have Brandon Street, Jerry Ross, and myself, the moderator, and special guest, Mackenzie Jenkins. Mackenzie, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, so I'm Kenzie. I work in Mac. You guys call me Mac, whatever you want to call me. I work in the Career Center as the internship coordinator, and I work with students a lot, do internship prep appointments, and run the professional internship program and a new program that's coming this semester called SU Career Academy. So lots of fun stuff.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today, Mackenzie, or Mac, or Kenzie, whatever we call you. We do call her all of them. Kenzie's awesome, and she also helps with part of our social media strategy in our office, and she's an awesome model for our videos and our reels. So give us a follow at SU Career Center, just saying. Let's jump into your digital footprint and how that matters. So why don't we talk about that?
Yeah, so this is increasing all the time with employers, right? The digital footprint, and I've seen as high in statistics as 75-80% of employers will check social media as they're hiring individuals through the application process. So this affects all of us. It's important to make sure that we are representing ourselves well with our digital footprint on social media, and make sure we have the right outlets for employers to see us in that regard in a professional manner.
Absolutely. And, from a recruiter standpoint, I know that I would never use social media to determine whether I was going to hire a candidate. But if I had questions, it may give me information that would answer some of those questions. And, part of how we determine whether people fit. Do you meet the skills and qualifications for this job? Can you add? And culturally, do you fit? And I feel at times the social media presence helps us determine a couple of those things. And if I had one single piece of advice, it would be think before you click.
Yeah,
right? Just sleep on it. Do something. Make sure this is going to represent you not just today and who you want to be today, but once you post, it lasts forever, whether you take it down or not, and make sure that we're aligning yourself with where you may want to be 5-10 years down the road.
Yeah, I think, though you said that you didn't make decisions on hiring, that I think a lot of employers would say that, but I bet they would say they've made decisions not to hire based on social media, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bias.
One thing I was just thinking about is, the way that social media has grown is that I think we've all become more comfortable in sharing things on social media, which I think is really awesome in a way. But you also need to think about how that's going to affect certain things in your life. And, it's great to be comfortable, but be cautious of what you're saying, what you're commenting, not just what you're posting, but what you're commenting on other people's things, because it can and will affect you if it's controversial or even if, somebody just has a different opinion than you, that can still affect things in your job. So just be careful.
There's stories of people who have posted things they did while on the job later in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Things that happened that they ended up costing them their job. And so, this can be something that costs you getting a job, but also costs you a job while you're working, right? And so we've got to be aware of those things.
Yeah.
I've had a situation to where someone called into work and I called someone else in to come cover for that person. Hey, what happened to person A? Can't get into it. Things are going on. I can't be in today. And then later that person brings me a phone and shows me pictures of person A at the bar the night before. And it's just so many things that they put out there that they think I'm just sharing it for my friends. But that person didn't have a job at the end just because of the things that they post. There's just so many.
I think keeping in mind, we can all understand if something is going to blow up on social media, right? Like before it's even posted, whether or not someone might see differently than you on this topic. So just be mindful of that. I always laugh at, influencers or somebody that posts a, topic that's maybe
Controversial.
Yeah, I'm like,
Right.
whoa, what's the word
It
I'm
had
looking
left.
for? I'm like, hello, I don't know, my brain stopped. But like controversial topics, and then they're all in the comments at the commenters, like, well, this and that. I'm like, you should have known this was coming. Like,
Right.
they do know, and whether or not they want to or not, there are some out there that just do that for fun and on purpose, but. When you're looking for a job, this is a whole different story, and you want
That's
to be
right.
careful about what you're saying. And I love what Kenzie said about the comments. Like, a lot of people just think the post, but someone, if you commented something that upset somebody, they will remember that forever. They will not. That's not gonna, just
go away
bypass their
overnight. Yeah,
memory. Like,
exactly.
they're gonna remember that about you, and so just being careful about that. We've kind of started talking about pitfalls of social media, but I wanted to bring that up, especially in the topics that are controversial, like politics, for example, being careful. But let's talk about those pitfalls to avoid.
Well, first of all, I mean, yeah, you want to avoid any type of a polarizing conversation on social media, especially if you're looking for a job, right? We know that employers make decisions based on some of these things, and we talked about this early on in the podcast, is how many employers are looking at this. But I think it's important for us to understand they don't have to tell us why they didn't necessarily hire us. So they could look at social media and see this. If they don't believe the same way we do, that trust that we talk about, I always use this word trust to hire. But when I see something that may be different from my views, and not just different, but vastly different and maybe even angry in a sense, then I may not want to hire you. You know what I mean? I may make some judgments on you and that employer may never tell you that. They may never say, well, we didn't hire because of this reason, right? But you cost yourself the job through that process.
And in my very early days of recruiting, our application process had a long laundry list of questions that we ask. And then as the years went by, questions got deleted. And basically, we were told to no longer write notes and do some different things. And basically, you just pick the best qualified candidate. And I'm like, I pushed back a little bit and I said, leadership, why are we doing this? Because it's more difficult at my level to establish who my most qualified candidate is. And the response was, we're giving them too much opportunity to prove our decision, right? Mm-hmm. So the things about social media, right? When you got two candidates and you research one and one has information on there that doesn't culturally align with your business, prove it, right? You make the decision, but can you prove it? And the social media thing, it's hard for an applicant to prove I was judged against by this, but you can be. And really, it highlights who you are. I also want to talk a little bit about stages, right? Like I did an appointment with a student and helped them create their LinkedIn account. And I said, feel free to connect with me. You're welcome to look at mine, walk through some of the stages. And then I come onto my LinkedIn a few days later, and there's a fantastic pizza picture of her lunch.
I love pizza.
Right?
Yeah.
So she didn't recognize the appropriate place she was. That's a great Instagram, right, TikTok, something. But LinkedIn isn't the place for your pizza picture.
Yeah. And
making sure that we're using the appropriate network appropriately.
I'm getting hungry now.
I know. Yeah, me too.
Pizza. Let's talk about, we've talked about a lot about the pitfalls, right? Let's talk about how social media can be positive. I love that Mac had said, or Kenzie. Now I'm realizing I'm like, saying both.
Call me whatever.
I love that you said that it can be a positive thing and it can be a good space, an online community, but leveraging social media for growth in your career. We've talked about LinkedIn. So let's dive into that further.
So, yeah, I mean, when we talk about it being a positive thing, what a great way to network, right? Like these are tools designed to network with individuals, a lot, who are in your circle of influence, some who may not be. But you could, I coach individuals to use this as a means of networking. If you're looking for a job, let people know you are, but I always say, let them know what you're looking for, not just, hey, I'm looking for a job, and then they get back to you and tell you a great job, and then you say, no, not that one. So give them some guidance. But again, this can be a great place to contact people and network for opportunities, which we know is the number one way to get a job.
So I have a question. Say I'm applying for a job in the Career Center, and I'm not following any of you on Instagram.
Right.
Should I send a friend request to Brandon and
That's a
become
really good
friends?
question. If I see someone who sends me a friend request applying, it may be like, what?
Yeah.
And so that is a good question. I don't think on your personal ones, like if you were to send me one on LinkedIn, I'd be like,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
connect. But if you were to send me one on Facebook, I'd be like, what is going on?
I don't
right
even
now,
follow you on Instagram, and we've worked together for
See?
years.
See, there you
I
go.
was gonna,
See, that
I was
answers
gonna
the
call you
question.
out about that. Our social media platform doesn't like any of us, Kenley. I'm just messing with her.
Well, I don't follow you guys. I don't follow you.
I don't follow.
Hey, Jerry
I enjoy
didn't follow
separating.
ours.
I enjoy separating work from
Yeah.
home to a certain extent.
Yeah,
Like
I
there's
do
a
too.
good part of that. And in the LinkedIn thing also, I'm a consumer, right? So I don't contribute much. I don't post many things. I don't put many of my ideas out there. But I love to gather contacts that I can use at a later date. So we all have different ways, and some of us contribute more and like to post things in different things, and you're great and do that. Some of us like to gather the information and the contacts so that at a later date I can leverage this into the next opportunity or help others with theirs, to where I've seen people that have been looking and I've reached out and said, hey, I'd love to help in the way that I can. But I mostly use LinkedIn as a consumer. I consume it for data. I use it to manage previous contacts and people that I can get a relationship later or help them find the next one. But I consume a lot of data off of LinkedIn as opposed to contributing.
Yeah, it's definitely not everyone's thing, right? Like I definitely struggle, and I do social media. That's my job, you know.
Right.
I manage social media, and LinkedIn is not one of my best. I definitely need to work on that personally, but I think a lot of people can, right?
I do, and I would really recommend any of our listeners to get, if you don't have a LinkedIn account, I think that is your avenue for social media. If I'm going to have an employer look at me, what do I want them looking at? Do I want them looking at my, Instagram or my Facebook or my MySpace?
Yes.
That takes
I'm just
effect,
kidding.
Right.
MySpace.
Right, I'm just
Whoa,
kidding.
what's
Yeah,
MySpace?
I
No,
know.
I'm
Some
just
of our
kidding.
listeners definitely will not know what MySpace is. But do I want them looking at those things, or do I want to be driving them, in which I intentionally do on my resume, drive them to my LinkedIn where they see me as a professional, they see what others say about me, they see the professional content that is me, right? Because they are looking and they want to look, and I'm inviting them to do that, but just on the platform I've created for them, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much for tuning in today, listeners. And make sure to go create a LinkedIn account. I mean, MySpace. No, I'm just kidding. Make sure it's LinkedIn. And also give us a follow on our social media accounts at SU Career Center. That's our Instagram handle. So make sure to give us a follow. Tune in next week we're going to be talking about mastering the art of professionalism, navigating emails, phone calls, and voicemails. It's going to be a really good one. So tune in. And we're going to sign off, of course, with one of our dad jokes by Jerry.
Did you guys know I used to be a professional fisherman?
No.
Really?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I believe it.
I discovered I couldn't live on my net income.
Oh, the net income,
Whoa,
huh?
I love that we turned all vampire-esque there at the end.
That was
My
fisherman.
net
That was, he
income.
was trying to-
Is that what a
vampire
fisherman?
fisherman?
Yes.
All right. I love it. We're coming up on October. Hey, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.